What's up? It's Brandon, AKA FantasyFling, with your Draftkings UFL Week 3 first look. Guys, we're going to get right into it, but before we do, I want to do a little review of last week. Last week ended up being a pretty good week, so almost had a takedown, so we are going to hop into that, and let's go. All right. So this is over at Draftkings. So did the Sunday 10K to first only and placed fifth. Was 3 points away from the 10K from a takedown, and really it was West Hills that crushed me in this spot. I figured on the Sunday, the 2-gamer, he was a pretty good play overall, despite the tough matchup. I thought he would have more dump-offs, just wasn't there. And yeah, everyone ahead of me, they had Kiki Kuti and Jordan Tiamu, but they did not have West Hills. So if I just would have got, another dump-off for 20 yards, would have been the takedown. But part of the reason that I was able to be in this position to have a takedown was my call on Ricky Pearson. This is something that you have DFS Army subscribers, you will see in the cheat sheets. I do these each and every week. Pearson was one of my guys. He was one of my calls. As I said here, he looked fantastic. Good 1-2 combo with Marable. Picked off where he left off in 2023. He didn't get a lot of opportunities, but every time he did, he was great. So he had over 5 yards per carry in 3 consecutive games. This was the most action we'd seen from him in a game, and he delivered with, an 18-point score the week before. So it went back to him, ended up scoring 12 points. This is, again, my cheat sheet I do every week at DFS Army. This is something that if you are a DFS Army subscriber, you have access to just by having a Core 4 membership or an NFL-only membership. If you're not a DFS Army subscriber, I'll put a free month offer in the video. You can also just sign up with code FantasyFling, get you a 10% off VIP subscription. So, without further ado, we're going to kind of go ahead and just hop into the lobby and take a first look at the lineups here. So let's go to UFL. And let me make sure this is okay. That's the right share. That'll work. And let's just hop into the Sunday special, the 20K to first. We'll start looking at lineups here, guys. So, from a Vegas standpoint, I do not have that pulled up, but from the Vegas standpoint, we have the DC Defenders versus the Arlington Renegades. That game carries the highest over-under. You'll see right here, DC and Arlington. That's a 43.5. DC is 2-point favorites. The next one, we have Birmingham and Memphis. That's 41 points, with Birmingham being big favorites. So typically you want to target favorite quarterbacks, favorite running backs. They're just doing a lot of research. We found that is the best way to win those contests, to win large field GPPs. So Birmingham, big favorites. Then we have Houston and Michigan here, 38.5 point total, with Michigan being 3-point favorites. And then last, we have, I think, the game of the week that's going to be the most chalky. We have St. Louis going against San Antonio, 42-point game total, with St. Louis being 2-point road favorites. So we got your Sunday games, and then that Sunday only slate's going to look really good with this game being chalk. This game's going to be chalk regardless. And want to show just a few of the numbers as to why the top 2 quarterbacks. We have Garbers and McCarron. Garbers was the number 1 quarterback 2 weeks in a row. So 21 points week 1, 21 DraftKings point, 25 week 2. And AJ McCarron finally got it going week 2. He scored 20 points, and really he had a Shepherd catch that fell at the 1 yard line. It looked like a touchdown at first look. They didn't call it a touchdown. They reviewed it. They said it wasn't a touchdown. He had his elbow down. So, he could have easily ended up with 25 points as well. And, we have two teams with a lot of playmakers on both sides, as we're going to get into. And, so we'll go ahead and take a look at the quarterbacks here, of course. But we're going to see exactly why these two teams, have why it's going to be chalk because of what they have, of course, on both sides. So when we go and we look right away at the quarterbacks, we see that A.J. McCarron is priced high. He's 10-6. We see Chase Garbers is 10-4. Kudos to DraftKings on not overreacting and having Garbers up to 11K at this point. He was pretty much terrible for the first 4 quarters of that game, and really they converted. They got a touchdown. They convert late and salvaged a decent day. He was at 18 points at that point, and then they converted a 4th and 12. They got the ball back. They scored another touchdown. So he's done really well as far as DraftKings points. As we'll go back to here, and we'll see 21 points, 25 points, but. He also, he got 2 touchdowns late. So, if he doesn't have that great end of the game, aided a little bit by that 4th and 12 conversion, which I think is kind of a ridiculous rule. It's so much easier to convert that than it is an onside kick. The percentages for onside kicks are way lower. So, if he doesn't have that late score, we're probably singing a different tune. Week 1, he only had 19 attempts. So last week, got it going a lot more. It looks really good. But I do think at some point we can't keep chasing the past 2 weeks. It was QB +3, and it was Garbers week 1. And one of those was his running back. And then last week it was him. It was Kirkland, Stevenson, and Latimer. So at some point that's going to fall off. Will it be this week? I don't know. But I also think A.J. McCarron, we have not seen the best of him. He hit 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions week 1, 17 points. Last week, like I said, was on the kind of the negative side of regression with that catch being, down to the 1, 2 touchdowns, 0 interception. I think a 3 to 4 touchdown game for McCarron is coming. So we'll see on that this week. These are the top 2 guys. I really do like McCarron this week. I expect him to come in with a little bit less ownership than Garbers this week. So A.J. McCarron's probably going to be the guy that I'm going to want to play, specifically because he's favored. So I want to target favorite quarterbacks. Now, I kind of talked about this last week in the first look is Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez. These guys are in a timeshare. And what we saw here was after Corral had a good first week, scored 19 points, he only scored 5 last week. And that's because Adrian Martinez played a lot of the game. He had an interception. He didn't get a touchdown, didn't get the rushing touchdown, and really was terrible. 12 attempts, 5 completions, add a little bit of rushing. So that is a complete avoid for me. I will not play a 2 QB system. I've said it before. You can get lucky. You also can get burnt. And I just prefer not to play that way. Now, a guy that obviously I just showed you in the contest that, I placed 5th in that I loved last week was Jordan Tiamu. And I think he actually sets up really well this week. He got it going a little bit late, scored, ended up with 19 points. Now, this week, I think going against Arlington is a very juicy matchup. Arlington across the board has not been good. They haven't been great against the pass. They haven't been great against the run. They've been bad in coverage and tackling. They have the worst ranked defense with a 56 PFF score. And they've given up the most points through 2 games, averaging 27 points through 2 games. So, they've given up through the air 237 yards per game. That's the highest so far this year. So I love Jordan Tiamu here. I think we just looked at it. They are favored. Yeah, DC's 2-point favorite. So he might be the quarterback I have the most exposure to this week. Haven't quite figured it out. I think it's going to be McCarron, Tiamu, and then another one of these cheap guys, which we're going to get to in a second. But Cookus, we have not seen it from Cookus this year. It's been bad. I really expected a lot more with all the pass catchers. The offensive line has not been very good, and this does not set up very well this week going against Birmingham that has a really good pass rush. I think it could be another long day for Cookus. See, week 1, he only completed 57% of his passes, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 12 points on DK. And then 54% of his passage, under 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 17 points, is pretty good. He did because he added some rushing in this game. So he had 58 rushing yards. So if we get more of that from Cookus, yeah, we like that. But, that's going to be an avoid for me. So as we kind of round this out, the last spot for me that I like is Reed Sinnett. Now, he came in and played well for Guarantano, who I said last week is not good. He's not a guy we're going to be wanting to play. Well, he got hurt, and, this might end up being offensively the best thing for Sinnett to get the start in this game. So Guarantano obviously, got hurt early. Sinnett came in through 31. He had 31 dropbacks, 30 attempts, 19 completions. He ended up getting 221 yards and a touchdown. So he ended up with 12 points. And, in a full game, I think potentially going against Michigan. Yeah, I like that against Michigan. Michigan is by no means a juggernaut on defense. So I like Sinnett. And, that's probably going to be it for me with quarterbacks. All right, so moving on to running backs, guys, and oh my God, we don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on this year here because it's been terrible, and we could just look at the numbers for running backs. We have kind of really one team that's been consistent, and that's Birmingham with Ricky Pearson and Marable, which we saw, 18 and 14 points there. They combined for, 32 Draftkings points. And then last week we had Pearson got 12 and Marable got 11. But what you do see with these guys is it kind of caps the ceiling when there's 2 guys in, right? So luckily the rest of the league has been so bad that it hasn't mattered. We saw Pearson. I think he was in the winning lineup last week. Now, Mateo Durant came out of nowhere this year, and just last week and had 14 attempts, 104 yards, 7.4 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, 21 points. And we really thought Gallman was going to be a decent play in that matchup against Arlington. Well, he came out of nowhere, but it's kind of surprising to me because he wasn't this guy in 2023. I looked at his game logs from 2023, just didn't see a whole lot. So that's probably something I'm going to be looking to not completely fade, but I'm definitely not going to chase it. This week, I expect a lot of the field to be on him. I'm seeing him for 5th highest ownership right now. So yeah, not too excited about that. 3rd highest ownership, actually. But yeah, he looked great. But everywhere else, and Kirk Merritt's more of a wide receiver, but everywhere else, it was pretty bad. So obviously, Marable did decent. Darius Victor, like I said, he's getting there just off of receptions. So Victor got 3 targets, 2 receptions, 11 yards, 8 points. He got 17 attempts, 54 yards. So, and adding some receptions, that helps. Wes Hills was just absolutely terrible last week. 7 attempts, 10 yards, but a lot of it, there aren't running lanes. And I think that's the bigger issue with a lot of this league. Run blocking has been really bad. I was looking at it earlier. Every team is a 52 PFF score or below in run blocking. It's just been terrible. So what I think we do in trying to attack the slate is we're more or less going to play one running back every week. Just don't even bother putting two running backs in. Unless you get some really good value. I'm playing one running back every week, and I'm spreading out exposures. And there's certain guys that I'm just not playing at all. I'm not going to play Wayne Gallman, not with the way Mateo Durant played last week. I think you play Marable. I think you play Ricky Pearson. Kind of the same thing we saw. Who's going to be the one that gets the double-digit points, gets all the tutties? Now, the good thing is Ricky Pearson is significantly cheaper than Marable. So at this point, he's probably the guy I want to play the most at 6,100 with the usage that we're seeing. Now, that said, this is going to be a much more difficult matchup for these two this week. So Memphis, they've only given up 79 rushing yards in 2 games. So, they're giving up an average of 40 rushing yards per game. Now, that said, Pearson is more of the receiving guy, so I would probably, again, lean him. I don't love it. A good matchup in a timeshare. I'm not going to have a ton of those guys. I think maybe we can go back to McFarland this week. He was kind of MIA last week, but St. Louis, they don't have a great run game. They've given up an average of 91 rushing yards per game. So I think we can go back to McFarland this week. I think he's a guy who will look a lot better. Hills, I'm not playing any of him next week. Maybe less than 10% for sure. Houston, they've given up the fewest rushing yards. So given the way that Michigan's run blocking has been and ineffective as Hill's been, I'm just not going to have a lot of him. Now, Thompson is a guy that Michigan, they've given up an average of 111 rush yards per game. So Houston's been terrible running the ball, but if we get Mark Thompson back, he would probably be like an all-in play for me in this spot. I would also play Pledger in his spot. Pledger looked decent last week. He was better for sure. 11 carries, 47 yards, 4.3 average. He added a few receptions. So, yeah, he had 8.7 points. So, I think I could definitely go back to Pledger. I'll have a good amount of him. Like I said, with the Mateo Durant thing last week, just came out of nowhere. It seems like they had almost seen enough of Gallman. Did he get any carries? 2 carries, 4 yards. Yeah, that's not a guy that I'm going back to. Victor gets there sometimes just off of receptions. He does get a lot of opportunities. He gets a lot of goal line carries. The run blocking for me, again, it hasn't been there. And Birmingham is not a team that you really want to target. So, Birmingham is a second-ranked run defense behind Houston. So that's why I'm not playing Wes Hills, and that's why I'm not interested in playing Victor. So, like I said, Pearson, I think you could play him because he does work in the receiving game and because he's a lot cheaper than Marable. And Higgins, last guy actually, Cameron Harris, he looked a lot better last week. He's a guy I think you want to play more this week. 9 attempts, 34 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. But the matchup is really good going against Arlington. So Arlington has just been pretty bad all the way around. Giving up a lot of points, giving up points in the secondary. As far as the run defense, they have the worst overall defense, and they've given up a good amount in rushing yards too. But, another way to think about it is if Arlington is giving up big plays all over the field, that gives Cameron Harris more opportunities near the goal line as well. So even if Arlington is kind of middle in the pack in their run defense, just overall bad defense, I think is a pretty good matchup for Cameron Harris. Hagen's got a little involved last week, so he's a guy I would get a little bit of exposure to as well, specifically at 5,300. I think he did pretty well from what I remember. Yeah, 11 attempts, 29 yards. He did get a touchdown, though, and he had a couple of receptions with some receiving yards, so ended up with 12 points. So, I wouldn't have a lot of Harris or Higgins. I would just have them in the mix, and I'd spread exposure out on both of them. Like I said, Thompson being healthy is probably the only guy that I'm really wanting to go all in on. So, let's go ahead and wrap it up with pass catchers and defense. All right, guys. So pass catchers, what we're trying to do here is target guys that are getting a lot of volume. Now, one thing to keep in mind specifically when you're not playing cash games and you're in GPPs, you're in tournaments, you're trying to get leverage. A big part of this is knowing or having a good feel, whether you have ownership projections or you play enough that and you have a good feel for who's going to be the chalk. So I'll tell you right now, we'll just go highest ownership. Darius Shepard, Dawood Davis, Jontre Kirkland. These are the guys that are projecting for the highest ownership right now. So one of the ways to leverage the field is find a guy in a game environment that you think is going to go off potentially. Find a guy who's a low owned. So I'm going to give you a couple of those guys. But last week, it could have been Latimer, as I talked about. He was running open down the field week 1, waving his hands. Garbers didn't see it. Well, they saw it on film because they targeted him a lot this week. They corrected their course. So, find that guy that you think could get a lot of targets. Maybe he's in a game script that you think St. Louis or San Antonio, you think that game could shoot out. Well, try to find that low-owned guy that's getting targets but hasn't popped yet, for example. Now, that said, Jontre Kirkland in 2 weeks has gotten over 9 targets per game. So he's a guy that I think I would have a lot of, would kind of be a core player for me. Maybe I play as opposed to, doing a chalky AJ McCarron stack. Maybe I play Reed Sinnett, and Justin Hall, but I have Jontre Kirkland in that lineup. So I'm eating chalk, but I'm getting different with my other stack, right? So Aitman's been on a tear as well, and he's just been really good. And, he's a guy that I've missed on to start the year because apparently last year he was playing hurt a lot of the year and just wasn't nearly as effective, but he has looked incredible. 6 targets, 4 catches is all I need for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Broke the slate, 30 DK points. And then what did he get? Let's see what he got week 1. Yeah, he had 7 targets week 1, 60 yards and a touchdown. So he's been incredible. I like him, of course. But, let's try to see, some of these other guys that are getting regular targets. Darius Shepard, Sims, he's going to be in play for me. So, kind of the top guys here. Kirkland, obviously. Jonathan Adams, he's getting regular targets, and he is a big play guy. So I do like him in Cookus stacks. If you play Cookus stacks, I do like small exposure to him. I wouldn't have a lot because, like I said, great pass rush, bad offensive line, not a good combo, specifically for a big play guy like Adams. Kiki Kuti, the targets were there last week, but he didn't do a whole lot with them. Dropped like a big 30-yard pass, things like that. Darius Shepard is a guy that I think is kind of underpriced relative to his ceiling. We have not seen his ceiling from him yet, 19 points. If the tutties are coming, he missed a touchdown last week. And what did he do week 1? Yeah, 8 points. So I really think he'll have a ceiling game at some point or another, but he's going to be chalky this week. So that's something to keep in mind. Right now, he's projected for the highest ownership, and for good reason. He's underpriced at 7,500 relative to his ceiling. So, if you're playing him, you just have to really think about how to get different elsewhere. Now, a guy that I really like this week, and I'm seeing for a low ownership, he got more involved last week. Price hasn't come down a lot. Everyone doesn't want to get burned by him. Projecting for under 10% ownership. So, as I was saying, if you're going to play a chalky game, play the guy that the field isn't going to be on, but we know has high upside. This is a league-leading wide receiver last year in the UFL, so I will have a good amount of Butler to differentiate those lineups. I don't know. I don't think Aitman and Butler are going to correlate very well this year, as we've kind of seen Aitman's 8 the first couple of weeks. Butler has it. I think if it's a Butler week, you probably want to fade Aitman a little bit. Stevenson, this guy is continuing. He got 6 targets week 1. He's getting fed. So he had 8 targets last week, 103 yards and a touchdown. So I do like Stevenson. He is projected for a lot of ownership as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Cody Latimer, love him. Again, 6,700, a lot more involved last week. I think he had like 8 targets. He had 2 touchdowns. So really good day for him. Now, David Davis, I actually really like David Davis. He's been getting peppered with targets, and he gets a lot of them, like near the line of scrimmage. So I think he's a guy you could go back to. Just know that he is going to probably have the second highest ownership on the slate. So, he's going to be high owned. Some of these other guys, I think we can look at that maybe are going to be a little less owned. Justin Hall. So Justin Hall, he actually came to life with Guarantano out of the lineup and Sinet in. So, we saw Justin Hall get targets last week, which is awesome because he got a lot of targets in 2023 in the USFL. So it was crazy that he wasn't involved. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 44 yards, 10 points. He is capable of a lot more. So love seeing him getting involved in the lineup. And then a guy that is going to be one of the cheaper guys that I'm going to have in my lineup. I'm probably going to have a ton of him this week is Marcus Sims. Michigan is banged up at wide receiver. They're pretty weak at wide receiver as is. He got 8 targets last week, 3 receptions. One of them was a big touchdown, 96 yards and a touchdown. So I think with Sims being as cheaply priced as he is, you got to have some of these guys that can really provide tournament winning value at their low salary. 4,600. So Sims is a guy that I really like, is my value guy. Definitely going to be a guy I will have a lot of and a lot of decent amount of confidence in my cheat sheet for DFS Army. So by the way, guys, if you like this kind of content, let me know. Hit that like button. Let me know who you played last week. Let me know at your first look who you think you're going to have a lot of in week 3. Now, Surratt, the touchdowns are coming for Surratt. So he is a guy I will continue to play until he smashes because the receptions are there. And I do think the touchdowns are coming for him because he's had several targets. Oh, this is going to be under tight end. He's had several targets near the goal line that just have not happened for, to be a touchdown, but they're coming. So 6 targets. He got 32 yards last week. And like I said, several of those were near the goal line. So Surratt is a guy that I definitely want to have in the mix as well. And then let's see if there's a couple more mid-range guys. Sternberger, it's just been so disappointing. Magoo loved him. Clearly, Coral and Adrian Martinez don't look his way. He's not a focal point in the offense at all. So, until further notice, like unless Jamar Smith gets the job, or something, we're just not going to be looking to play Sternberger. And then Kane. So Kane, another 5 targets. The problem with Kane is the 2 QB system is so ineffective right now. So it's quite concerning. He's going to be a boomer bust play that you can mix in there. And, luckily, I guess just kind of the inefficiency of Corral and Martinez passing the ball, keep his price low, and he can't boom or bust for a deep touchdown every now and then. We saw Canella get a touchdown last week. Not chasing that. He doesn't get a lot of those. Now, Arlington is a team that I think you kind of want to target most weeks just because they're going to be trailing from behind because of their defense. So Bonds, we saw him get 7 targets last week. He's in play for me again, 58 yards. He had 13 points. Same with Javonte Payton. He's going to be in play. They're going to be trailing in games and throwing the ball. I see this week is no different. 5 targets, 83 yards. So almost 15 points there. So yeah, those are some guys from Arlington that I want. And then kind of last, DC, we saw Ty Scott get a touchdown last week. Only 1 target, though, so it was quite concerning. He's going to be a boomer bust guy, and hopefully he gets a touchdown. So he's definitely a guy that you want to mix into your stacks with Tiamu. Now, last here, Birmingham's the top pay-up option, specifically with Memphis' offensive line being pretty weak and them having a great pass rush. So Birmingham's going to be the top pay-up option. From there, if you want to be contrary and you want to fade the chalk games, the chalk environment, Battlehawks or Brahmas, I think specifically Brahmas, Wade Phillips D, they can create problems. Battlehawks, they're better in the secondary than they are against the run. We'll just say that. So maybe we see more of the 3/4 garbage that we saw last week, and not the garbage we saw down the stretch. And then a couple defenses I will be looking to play who are cheap are the Panthers and the Roughnecks. I think this one could go either way. Neither of these offenses are great, so I'm going to get some exposure this week. There's really no just like standout play. I think spread your exposures. That's the best way to attack it. And then, definitely get a good amount of the cheapos as you build your lineup. So let's see. Let's just kind of put together a last second lineup. With that said, I would go like, let's say you go McCarron, and assuming that Mark Thompson doesn't play, we would go TJ Pledger. We go Butler. Like I said, a way to get different in that game is the cheap guy who no one is going to be playing. And he's not cheap, but he's the cheaper of, what he used to be. He was 9,600. So let's say we did go Shepard. Let's do another guy that I liked with Sinet would be Hall. And then we have 6,200 left. So who do we like for 6,200? Guys, I said I'm only playing 1 running back, so I can't lie. Sage Strat. So this could be like a good first look lineup. You could also come off of Darius Shepard and play like Stevenson, for example. So if you just, instead of a double, you want to like a bring back, you could play Stevenson. We also could play Cody Latimer. So let's, there's a couple different ways you could certainly go about it. And then, wait, I didn't want to play Deion Kane. So let's go ahead and fix that. 2 boomer busts for me. I want a guy that's getting a little bit more volume. And then, you could play Strat. But there's a couple different ways you can go about it. I would build, several variations off that lineup. Maybe you come off Shepard, you go to Stevenson, and then you can go up a little higher than Surratt, and maybe get Cody Latimer, for example. So certainly would like playing it that way. But I think that is going to wrap it up. Like I said, guys, If you like this kind of content, let me know. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Best of luck this week for DFS Army subscribers. I will have my cheat sheet out by Friday. Go into Moab on Friday night. So I want to make sure that's done. So it'll be out early Friday. Keep an eye out for that. I will be posting in the Discord. So we will see y'all later. Have a good week, guys. Win some money.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. You know you don't want to miss what's coming next. We really appreciate it. And we'll